everyone. Welcome to Pod Maverick After Dark. Josh, Bo, and Kirk Henderson. We are coming to you live on Tuesday, October 22nd, the day before the Dallas Mavericks season kicks off, though we are recording right smack in the middle of the NBA season kicking off with the Thunder playing the Rockets in a brilliant rock fight of a game that has me kind of obnoxiously excited about the season because it was just so heinous for the first 20 minutes. Josh, how you doing?
I'm doing good. We recorded last night. We recorded tonight. We'll be recording tomorrow after the Mavericks. What is this Locked On Mavs over here?
No,
what are we doing?
No, we're trying to be like the daily guys, but it's just the nature of what we'd wanted to do, because there's some elements of preseason basketball that we just didn't. There's like two things kind of collided. Number one, they played 4 games. Number two, they played all their starters all 4 games. So when they did this, it didn't really give us a gap to say, all right, these are the things that we're taking away from the starters. And we really wanted to get this kind of conversation in under the wire before the season starts, because I think that if you've not thought about these things in one way, shape, or form, as we talk about this, and if you're happen to watch, listen to this on Wednesday morning, Wednesday afternoon before the game, it's something. These are all things we want you to keep in mind as the season progresses, because this is such a different season of basketball than we've seen since Luka was on the team. They are a very different offense. It's going to be a wildly different defense, and what comes with those differences is of just a different viewing experience. Going to a double big lineup is a lot of fun. It also might not work at all, but what will come with that is just a lot more things to consider. I mean, we kind of knew who the Mavericks were from about 2020 to 2024. Like, we knew it was a matter of ironing out the margins and seeing if they could win a championship. When the team reset with the way that they did, and then they landed Cooper Flag, it's just different, and some of it's really exciting. I just can't wait to watch. I think it's going to piss me off in ways that haven't happened in a while. I also think it's going to be really awesome to watch elements of the team and things that they've suffered at for several years. So, understanding that, before we kick off kind of the first question, do you have anything you want to add?
No, just, I'm excited to talk about the basketball. It was funny. Yeah. We talked during the preseason, and we were like, okay, like, we do not have to record after, because like there's going to be games where they don't play anyone, and we just won't talk about it. And then they ended up, everyone played every single game. Like, they played for the most part, obviously not everyone did, but like they had at least 5 of their top 6 healthy guys in every game, I think. And Russell was the only one who sat out a game that probably could have played, who was healthy. Everyone else was like legitimately hurt. So yeah, we didn't have time to take a break. So it kind of helped us too. And it helped. And I think it helped us get a better idea, because the only thing that's been frustrating about this offseason is that everything has been hypothetical, because there's literally nothing. There was nothing. Anthony Davis played 9 regular season games. They played the 2 play-in games. Lively was hurt and a shell of himself. Davis, even when he returned, was not the same. He was clearly still laboring. And we know this in both ways, because he had a detached retina and he still was, I think, playing through that abdominal strain. So like last season was a throwaway. So everything that people were trying to talk about was like, if, because there's just no data. Like, there's just nothing. You've got a rookie, so there's obviously no precedent there. And then Davis barely played. Gafford got hurt. Lively got hurt. PJ got hurt. Like, there's no Luka. Kyrie's now going to be hurt. It's like, we just don't have any lineup data. We don't have any hard evidence of how this team's going to go. So everyone just kind of wish casted, I felt like, this summer to the best that they could. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Oh, I love it.
I know.
I love
it. What are you going to do?
I've had to keep my mouth firmly fucking shut, because I don't feel like arguing over hypotheticals. But I have a pretty good sense of how basketball is played, and I don't think it's played by all forwards. I just don't think that. Now,
oops, all forwards.
If I'm wrong, that's really cool. That's interesting. And it prompts a lot of stuff to talk about, but I just didn't feel like arguing over hypothetical is boring. And now we have real basketball. Like, we're watching the Rockets play right now, and they're just like, they're bigger than the Mavericks. That's got to be said up front. Like, this Rockets lineup that they're throwing out,
it's like the one team that's bigger than the Mavericks.
And
I mean, it was funny because that was the adjustment they made when Anthony Davis made his debut. Remember, the Mavericks killed them in the first half, and then they started Steven Adams with Sengun in the second half, and AD was not very good in the third quarter, and Houston kind of got back into the game, and the Mavericks pulled away. But if both of these teams, it's 87. We're recording this live. It's 87-83 Houston over OKC. About 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter. If both of these teams stay under 100 points for this game, does Nico pop champagne in his office tonight?
3-point shooting in this game: 10 of 32 for the Rockets. That's 31%. 8 of 35 for Oklahoma City. That's 23%.
Fortune favors the bold.
Fortune favors the bricks. What a game. I love it. And it was like the enthusiasm of the game. It was just, I was out of control. All right. 4 big questions that we have before the season starts. This is the first one that you threw together for us, and this is a great question. How do the Mavericks win the Anthony Davis power forward minutes?
That's the question. I think that's the question that defines the season. Because I think everyone knows they're going to be pretty good when he plays the 5. And I think we talked about this last night. The question isn't, people keep arguing, he needs to play the 5, he needs to play the 5, he needs to start, he needs to play the 5. Stop asking that question, because he's not going to start at the 5. And I don't necessarily think he should if they want to keep him healthy. So the question is what you asked. Okay, he's not starting and he's not playing the majority of his minutes at the 5. So how do they win those possessions when he's at the 4? Because if you think about it, if they are overwhelmingly positive when he's at the 5, then the season kind of comes down to, can they at least tread water when he's at the 4? I know that sounds kind of disrespectful.
It does.
To Anthony Davis, but we saw in the preseason and we've seen in bits and pieces that it can be a struggle depending on the matchup. So for me, it's an offense and defense question. Everyone kind of focuses on the offense. To me, the defense is also just as big of a question with Anthony Davis at the 4, because it's just harder to play depending on the team. So to me, it just kind of boils down to, can they be creative enough offensively? Can they utilize 80's passing to get enough buckets? And then defensively, can they figure out a way to contain dribble penetration enough that they can maximize their rim protection and not get drowned in an avalanche of drive and kick threes? So that's kind of like the summary for me for that.
So let's talk about the defense part of this. Anthony Davis playing 4. Our former staffer, Matthew Phillips, loved to say, and this was before Anthony Davis was a Maverick, this was just kind of a constant thing when it would come up when the Mavericks play the Lakers. He would love to say that the dirty secret no one would talk about is that Anthony Davis cannot guard in space anymore. And actually, he kind of posited whether Davis could ever guard in space, which I think is a different discussion for a different day. But at 32 years old, with a history of injuries, core-related problems, I think it's a worthwhile question to ask, because him being kind of a disruptive force on the perimeter and 15 feet away from the basket or more is kind of the point. And if he can't do it, and if he's not effective at it, that sucks.
It compromises a lot of what they want to do if he can't do it. They're going to have to figure out ways, because teams are that's what they're going to try to exploit. Like, there's no sense in challenging. Like, you're not going to challenge this lineup in the paint. Like, how do you get around it? Well, you gotta use your dribble penetration, space the floor, and knock down shots. And as we saw in the preseason there, and again, this is all we have to really look at, by the way. Like, I want until these regular season games start cracking off. Like, we don't have much to look at. The problem with him at the 4, if it gets compromised, is the drive. Like, they don't have any real point of attack defenders. They're going to use Cooper Flagg and they're going to use PJ Washington. But ideally, you wouldn't want those guys guarding the lead ball handler.
Nope. You want each one
majority of the game. Yeah. In times like switching on, doing switches, maybe you mix up coverages to throw a team off, sure. But in terms of like them being full-time point of attack defenders, that's pretty tough to ask those guys to do that. So like if Clay is playing, if D'Angelo Russell's playing, even if they're playing the big ball, if they're playing competent ball handlers, lead ball handlers that can get past the first level of defense and get the Mavericks into rotation. Like if you can get Anthony Davis into rotation, scrambling out the 3-point shooters, one, he's away from the basket, which is where he's best defensively. And I don't think anyone will ever question that. I won't question that. He is still at this age. Even if you were the biggest Anthony Davis hater of all time, he's still an excellent shot blocker, still an excellent rim deterrent. So ideally you would want him to be closer to the rim to do what he does best. But if you're spreading the floor, and if you're forcing rotations, that's the thing. It's not just spreading the floor. If they can break down the first level and force him to rotate out of the paint to cover shooters, that's where they're going to get into issues and that rotate and that recovery. They just don't want to get in that spin cycle, so to speak. Once that happens, it's going to be hard to stop. You're going to have guys flying out of position. Derek Lively, you don't want him closing out to shooters either. You're forcing a defense that wants to, I think, keep things stable and in front of them into a scramble situation. I don't think they want to scramble. I don't think the starting lineup with Anthony Davis is best scrambling. They do have Cooper Flag and they do have PJ Washington when Washington's in, and those guys are going to be great weak side cleanup guys. I've talked a bunch about PJ being an incredible weak side help defender. But yeah, if Davis is having to close out the 3-point shooters, that's not going to be good. So they got to figure out ways to keep the ball in front of them and play to their strengths and force teams into the mid-range, short paint, even the rim. Because I think they're just going to naturally give up some threes. The key is going to be what kind of threes are they giving up? Because if they can force what they did in 2024, which was mostly above the break, the problem is going to be if they're scrambling and they're giving up corner threes. You don't want to give those up.
That's right.
So that's going to be the question. Can they keep Anthony Davis near the rim on defense? Can they prevent scramble rotation situations where they're having their bigs having to close out on the perimeter? And can they force teams to kind of shoot the shots they want them to shoot, which are above the break threes from bad shooters, mid-range jumpers, short paint shots, and then go from there?
Well, and so we've talked about the offensive element of him playing 4 kind of ad nauseum. To summarize, in short, we think they need to utilize him as a passer way more than they did in the preseason. I have to believe that's part of their goal. And
because they did it last season, by the way. That was one of the positives that they did last season.
Okay,
after he returned.
They if they're going to get him isolated touches, they need to consider the distance to goal. I just am hyper focused on that. If he is catching it from the Dirk Nowitzki, like the nail, okay. If he's catching it from just inside the 3-point break, no. I don't have any numbers to back me on this, other than the fact that, broadly speaking, Anthony Davis can't shoot for shit outside of 5 feet. So if we're going to get him, let's at least make it closer. And that, I think, kind of puts a bow on that, and we'll see where we go from there, because we talked about his offensive production last night. So the second question that you had here, which I really like, can the Mavericks solve the 3-point shooting math problem? I want you to talk for a minute, and then I want to share with you that kind of like nonsense research I did whenever I threw together the Mavs 3-point shooting.
Yeah, this has kind of been your odyssey this summer is talking to your smart friends, looking at the numbers and figuring this out. But yeah, I think again, it's not a question of asking where the Mavericks going to get their 3-point shooting from. It's going to be, they're not going to get it. Can they win without it? I don't have the numbers up in front of me, so I apologize. I'll probably have to try to pull that up on the fly. But if you look at their starting lineup, they're basically going to be playing 2 non-shooters in Davis and Lively. Davis will shoot some threes, but even disregard the percentages. He still doesn't take a lot. Like, even if Anthony Davis was making 37% of his threes, he doesn't even take 4 per game. He's taking usually around 2 to 3. He settles in around 2.5 on the high end. His career high, I mean, even in Dallas, he shot in those 9 games, he shot 3.3, which is the most he shot since 2020. So like, even if he shot, 36% from 3, which would be a huge career high, that's still not a high volume that scares defenses into changing your floor geometry and your floor spacing. So that's one. And Lively's obviously not a shooter. The backup Gafford, when he plays, isn't a shooter. Washington and Clay, like Clay is going to be asked to do a lot, but Clay is really their only volume shooter in the starting lineup if they go without D'Angelo Russell, and then Russell can come back in. But it's less about the percentages for me. It's about the volume and the attempts. Even if the Mavericks get some career highs in shooting percentage, I don't know if they're going to get the volume to make up the difference. Like, if they're shooting 22 threes a night and the opponent is shooting 35 to 38, does it matter if the Mavericks shoot a higher percentage if the other team makes 5 more 3-pointers on average a game than them? And that's the question.
So I started just doing some, I don't love to talk about stats because I don't want to misrepresent anything. It's very easy to do. Pisses me off, in fact, when I think people are like purposely misusing numbers to make a point. Let's look at some 2024-25 season totals. On the one end of the team spectrum, you had the Boston Celtics, who shot nearly 4,000 threes. Okay. They're such an extreme outlier, it's absurd. But then 30th in the league came the Denver Nuggets with about 2,600, just over 2,600. The Dallas Mavericks roster in 2024-25, the players that were on in the NBA. So obviously excluding Cooper Flagg. And then I think we have to exclude Kyrie Irving because I don't know what we're going to get from him. The other 13 guys on the roster combined to shoot 1,800 threes. That's a difference of 800 threes between the last place NBA team in 2024-25 and the Mavericks roster as is. Now, it's an important caveat to note that Anthony Davis missed 30 games. Derek Lively missed 30 games, whatever it was. PJ Washington missed 30 games. So some of the volume is affected by that. And I think Cooper Flagg steps in and takes 2 or 3 a game himself. But realistically, over an 82-game season, this group of players projects to shoot like 2,200 threes. Like, they're just not going to shoot that many threes. And Kidd was talking after a couple of the preseason games about how he was happy with the 3-point volume because he knows they need to get that up. Well, in the preseason, the starting groups, the rotation groups, were shooting under 25% from 3 for some of these games. Like, that's not tenable. If you're going to shoot a lower volume from 3, it also means you need to shoot a very high percentage from 2, and you need to get to the line. The Mavericks got to the line a lot.
Yes, they will be good at that.
So they're going to be good at that part. That's not a concern. But then I think what inevitably is going to happen, and this is a take based on the Denver Nuggets, who I think are a comparison point for volume, is your game-to-game point differential is not going to be as good as you want it to be because you're not taking the type of shots to expand that margin over the course of the game. Any lead the Mavericks have is not going to be as well protected as it could be because they're not shooting threes. And the other teams are. That's just the way this is going to go. That's not to say they're going to lose. Right. It's to say that the games are always going to be a lot closer than we think they should be. Let's just take this Washington Wizards game that's coming up on Friday. If the Mavericks get up by 15 or more points, you might want to look at that and say, all right, I'm going to do something else. But because of the way the Mavericks play versus the way the Wizards might play, that game could switch like this because the Mavericks aren't going to keep piling on the points. It's a thing that is just sort of going to live in the back of my head until Kyrie Irving comes back, because I think he actually solves a significant amount of this problem.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a weird thing. We haven't seen this before. Well, that's not right. We've not seen this recently.
In a while time.
The Rockets are going to kind of test this to a degree, but the Rockets are bigger And in my opinion, like when you have Kevin Durant, like Kevin Durant's an equalizer. He can just score from everywhere. Like the Mavericks don't have that score from everywhere guy.
I mean, you say that, and we got 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter. They've shot 35 threes. So now they haven't made a lot in this game tonight, but they're still shooting a lot.
Okay.
They're still shooting a lot. They haven't made a lot, but they're shooting a lot. They've shot, the OKC is shot 38. So
this game is a rock fight. It is perfect.
I know, but for a lineup that's starting basically two centers in Sengun and Adams to get up 35 threes, it'll probably be closer to 40 before the game's over. Like that's pretty good, and it helps that one of their bigs, Sengun, can space a little bit. Obviously, you got, if you get a career season from Davis from three, who knows? But like the margin for error is different. Yes. They're not going to have the safety blanket of threes that a lot of teams have, where it's like, oh, we might have sucked on defense. We might have turned the ball over. We might have missed some free throws, but we got hot from, we won the coin flip of, we got hot from three. So we stole this game, even though we kind of played like dog shit.
Yep.
Those are going to be hard, or they might not win those games, or they might lose games where it's like, we played well, but we got snake bitten from three. And that stuff's going to happen for them. So the way they get around it is, they're going to have to like be top three in offensive rebounding. Like they just have to be. If you're going to play this big and you're not going to shoot and you're not going to be efficient from three, where are you going to generate the possession advantage? And they need to be a dominant offensive rebounding team. They need to be a dominant free throw team, like you said, which they look like they are. The preseason, they were awesome at getting to the line and just bully ball.
Yep.
So and they need to take care of the ball. This one will be harder because they don't really, if they're going to play Cooper Flag at point guard to start the season, if they can't win the possession game and they're losing the 3-point line, that's hard. That's hard to consistently win if you're playing behind the 8 ball on possessions, if you're turning the ball over a lot because they don't have a true point guard until Kyrie comes back. And then you're losing the 3-point line. So they got to dominate the glass. They got to dominate the offensive glass, generate extra possessions, get a possession advantage that way to counteract the 3-point shooting. And then they can't turn the ball over. And now Cooper has been great in the preseason, I think, at not turning the ball over. He'll have to keep that up. And if they do that, then they will be able to win games, even if their opponents make 10 more 3-pointers than them.
It's such a fun thing. Because it's just going to be this is probably the one that I've wanted to talk about the most. And I've bounced around it. And I got my say out. And we're going to, we have 6 home games to figure out if it's real. Maybe I'm just going to be dead wrong. But that's why it's a question. That's why we're thinking about it before the season starts. Okay, let's take a quick break and then we will be right back. So if you want to support Josh and I, you will actually listen to the ads. There's going to be more of them this time because it's a longer podcast. Thanks so much. Be right back. Okay, if you are new to the show or haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing so both on your audio feed and on the YouTube feed. Josh and I will be going live after every game. One of the two of us will be going live after every game and pretty much all 82. And then I hope to do a secondary fan-driven post-game show after every one of these. We'll start that tomorrow night against the San Antonio Spurs. Really looking forward to that one. It's gonna be ugly too. Because I don't think either team can shoot. I'm really looking forward to that. Last thing, if you would like to support Josh and I directly, there is a link in the show notes where you can give to us directly. I know that you can do super chats over the YouTube and that sort of thing, but YouTube actually takes like 40% of that. So it's not that we are not appreciative of the concept. It's just a different means of helping us. And just wanted to note that. Okay. Third question. So this is a good one. Will Cooper Flag impact winning right away? Tell me what you're thinking with this one.
Well, typically rookies, as even the best rookies, aren't overwhelming positive forces for teams. I mean, LeBron James didn't make the playoffs in his rookie season. Luka Doncic didn't make the playoffs in his rookie season. I know Carmelo Anthony did. I think Dwayne Wayne did. But you can look through examples, and it's hard. If now the benefit for Cooper is unlike LeBron on that Cleveland team, Luka for Dallas, and then some other rookie examples, Cooper is not going to have the weight of the franchise necessarily on his shoulders day one. There's Davis. There's a handful of vets that are going to share the load. It's not all going to be on Cooper, but it's tough. The Mavericks didn't make the playoffs in Luka's rookie year. I think they won 38 games, if I remember right. So that's not an indictment on Cooper. Like, he's still a teenager. And so I'm just curious, for a team that obviously has title aspirations, that is the self-described goal after what Nico Harrison has said this summer, and his hopes for this group for the next 2 to 4 years. I would say they think they consider this a championship window. So how does Flag, being a rookie, and there will be ups and downs no matter how great he is, because that's how rookie seasons go, can the Mavericks get around, like, if they still want to be a contender, can they get around that fluctuation of a teenager being a starter and being a pivotal player on their team? And I don't know, because I'm admittedly not smart enough about Cooper's development, as you know, you followed him much closer than I have. But I'm curious how they're going to get around. We want to win, but also we've got this rookie that, despite how great he is, there's gonna be some highs and lows.
Well, depending on your point of view, spicy take is that Flag's already a better shooter than Anthony Davis. And some of this comes around to how long do the Mavericks behave like Anthony Davis is the offensive focal point. I don't have an answer for that, because Flag so far in the preseason has done his scoring in bunches. He'll play the kind of complementary piece, and a lot of the Mavericks offense has centered around Davis, and that's fine. But if they do anything where he becomes more of an offensive focal point, which is why I don't love him playing point guard. Like, I don't want him handling the ball, 19, 20 minutes a game. It's an exhausting position. It takes it out of you. I think he can affect winning in a real way, because this team is laden with good players. I am obviously quite skeptical of what they're trying to do with the all bigs lineup, but I have to sort of cede to expertise, to NBA expertise in this regard, and give it a chance first. And so if the defense leads to offense, then the Mavericks might have something. I don't think either way we're going to be doing much laying of responsibility at Cooper Flag's feet. I don't think we're going to be saying that he affects winning. I also don't necessarily think we're going to be blaming any losses on him either. It's just the way the team is structured, it doesn't make sense to me unless Davis were to get hurt early, something like that, and then like more responsibility would shift to Flag. That's maybe one way. It's just going to be a season where he is impactful, but I think we're going to be asking questions as to how impactful for much of the year, not because of him, but just because the team's weird. It's I don't know. It's such a fun question, because I don't think we're going to have a good answer for it until like 3 years from now when we look back.
Yeah. I think what's going to help Cooper in this regard, in this rookie season compared to other rookies, is that defense is his calling card. And I know that we talk about his offense like he's going to be point Cooper, and when you think of franchise guys, you think of them being number one options first, and then good defensive players kind of second. But Cooper is he's a defense first guy. He's developed himself into being able to reach that stratosphere of being a prospect that could carry a franchise on his shoulders and be a number one option, which just goes to show his rapid improvement since, across high school and then his first college season. But like he got on the scouting map because of defense. I know you've told stories about that a bunch. Like that's how he showed up was defense. Rookies typically struggle with defense the most. That's the part that holds them back from impacting winning. Is there's a lot to learn defensively, and there's a physicality and athleticism jump that you make going into the NBA, because there's just nothing comparable to what they were doing before they got to the NBA. Like,
right.
There's just nothing there. So for Cooper, if he's as good as we think he can be on defense, if he can show some of that his rookie season, I think that gives him a chance to be real positive impact in winning, even if his jumper is shaky, even if he's not a smooth point guard, if they start him at point guard day one, even if he's not self-creating buckets, if he can just be a menace, an off-ball defensive menace, if he can block shots, get steals, guard one-on-one, cover, rotate, play like a madman, which we think he will, I think there's a path for him to be positive on the floor. And it just goes to show, I think it's going to be on the defensive end for him.
Which will be something. We got some commenters talking about how he probably needs to be left free to roam. It's the lack of point of attack defense. And, we've talked about this as Mavs fans since time immemorial. The Mavericks simply haven't had it's hard to guard on the perimeter. Like the NBA, it favors offensive players. Yep. So it's then, I don't know. I guess it's PJ. We'll see. It's a fun question. Okay. Then the last one, this is a good one. What will the Mavericks get out of their guards? What was the genesis of this one? I like this one.
Well, you look at the if they're going to be good, they got to get something. Someone's got to pop, right? If they are better than expectation, what's going to be Anthony Davis is going to play 70 games. Cooper Flag's awesome. But they got to get something out of D'Angelo Russell, Brandon Williams, Klay Thompson, if you want to consider him a guard. They got to get something out of those guys. D'Angelo Russell cannot be a negative acquisition for them to have a successful season, I don't think. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm putting
into him not starting. Do we read anything into that?
Not yet.
Okay.
I might in a couple weeks.
It was very surprising to me that it seems like they're not going to start him. I'm genuinely surprised,
because I thought that was kind of the thing.
He was ass when he played, though. That can't really be understated. He was not good.
As someone who defended the signing in the summer, he did not look great in those preseason games. That's for sure. But even if it's not him, okay, let's say he doesn't pop. They got to get something out of Brandon Williams. They don't have Dante Exum. Max Christie, does he take a leap? I know we talked last night about don't put too high expectations on him, but they can't play 5 forwards 48 minutes. They got to play some guards. And if they're going to win some games, they got to get some productive minutes out of those guards. Where are they going to get it from? Can Russell be something? Was Williams a second half mirage? Where does Christie fall? Where is he in the totem pole? What does Klay Thompson have left in the tank? Those are all big questions for me that kind of wrap into the bigger question that we asked.
I don't have any opinions on the guards. I think that speaks more to how the Mavericks got here, because it's been sort of my I've tried since the season ended. I've tried not to be what the fuck. Because it doesn't, I've not wanted to get in arguments all summer long. I mentioned earlier, I don't want to argue based off a hypothetical. But how do you, an NBA, a season without guards? It's a real earnest to goodness experiment. I mean, the Exum thing, they have a bunch of guys who I think would work in secondary positions if Kyrie existed.
Yes.
And that's just the real rub of it. And I think that as the season goes on, if they're able to build a margin where they feel comfortable and get into the new year in the plus, to the good, let's say they're 4 games over 500. I'm setting marginal goals here, guys. I'm not expecting the Mavericks to come out and beat the hell out of everyone. When Stephen A. Smith thinks your team is good, that should be an alarm bell, not a cause for rejoicing, because he does not know ball. And so it's if the Mavericks are able to extend for as long as possible, to give Kyrie as long a time as possible to come back, and then if he is coming back, play, after from February on, they play 19 of 32 games on the road. If he's able to play the home games, like I'd be thrilled. I'd be thrilled. Only playing 15 or 20 games and making the playoffs, then I maybe feel differently about their guard lineup. It's just right now, none of them evoke anything other than a stylistically different version of basketball than I think they want to play. If they actually go small for 15 minutes and they're playing, Brandon Williams who's zipping up and down the floor to give them little scoring bursts and they win those bench minutes, great. But I don't have any expectations right now. And that's a weird place to be, at least for me.
Okay. I have a question thinking about this.
Sure.
While you were talking and you were bringing up good points. Does Klay Thompson finish the season in the starting lineup?
I mean, he shouldn't.
Okay.
I'm kind of surprised. Like, one of the things that Mavericks fans are going to be forgetful of this. He stinks in October and November. Historically, we're talking going back 5 years, even including before his injury stuff. He stinks. So he's going to drive every one of us crazy, but then all of a sudden we're going to look up and it's going to be near trade deadline and the Mavs fans are going to be clamoring to trade him and he's going to be shooting 41% from three. Like this, I don't know.
Yeah. I was just thinking, I feel like they're kind of in a rock and a hard place with Klay.
Yes.
Because they desperate, even if he's not making shots, they need his gravity because he gets defended like he should, the reputation, like he's one of the greatest shooters of all time. Even if he shoots 28% for the month of November, teams aren't going to change. Like they're not going to be like, oh, okay, let's leave Klay open tonight. Like that's just not going to happen. So they kind of need his spacing. But then if you play Klay, it feels like the coaching staff is kind of like, I don't think we could play Klay and D'Angelo at the same time because that's just like we just talked about. We can't get our defense into rotation.
Yep.
You want to know how you get your defense into rotation? Your two guards defensively are Klay, D'Angelo, Russell. So it's okay. You can't play those two. So we're going to play the big lineup. We're going to do Cooper. Okay, but now we don't have a point guard. And so we're going to try Cooper at point, which is a great experimental developmental tool. But is that something you rely on to win games? So like there's a rubber meets the road kind of thing where I feel like the Mavericks kind of feel like a catch-22. If we can't take Klay out of the lineup because his shooting is too valuable, but his presence in the lineup also has a domino cascade effect of what type of lineup we can play around him because he is limited in certain aspects of his game now. And that's not his fault. He's becoming an older player. He's getting closer to his 40s. I don't know what they do with that until because like even when Kyrie comes back, are you going to start Kyrie and Klay? Not to dismiss Kyrie, who can be a good defender when engaged and effort level is there, but like defensively, do you feel okay about Kyrie and Klay with all these bigs trying to have to chase after them, chase after whatever comes from that? Like, so it feels like to me the cleaner fit. They have to figure out a way, I don't know, to maximize Klay's time on the floor without jeopardizing the rest of the lineup. And that's I don't know. That's why the coaches are paid as much money as they are, because I don't know the answer to that right now. I'm curious how that develops over the course of the season.
Just so much to tune in for. I think Dallas area fans, particularly the casuals, tend to not tune in until the new year. And I think hopefully we've made the argument for why you want to lock in right now. Right now.
Yeah.
It's going to be a different season. It might not always be fun. I think we'll have fun because I think talking about something new and different and just sort of like attempting to armchair quarterback like elements of how this team problem solves. It's going to be very different. And I'm looking forward to that element. I'm really looking forward to new shit to get mad at. Just can't really put fine enough point on that. I've been very happy in all my preseason stuff because I'm excited. You have all these people that are like, you guys are going to be way too happy about the Mavericks. You're going to change your tune. It's like, well, I like watching basketball. Do I still not particularly care for the general manager? That's correct, but it doesn't dominate my thoughts. Basketball does, because that's what I like. So that's what we're here for.
Yep.
Well, speaking of that, we'll be back tomorrow night. We're right at about 40 minutes, just so everybody understands. Josh and I will do our best to keep our post-game pods to about 30 to 35 minutes. We understand you have choice. We want to appreciate your time, and we will try to get in and out. And if you have thoughts on that game, be ready to tune in. I'll be downstairs in my living room because I can't actually broadcast from my office late because my wife wants to go to bed. But we'll be back tomorrow night, probably. I'm guessing so it's an 8:30 start time, probably a little before 11 is when we'll go live, and we'll go from there. So thanks so much. This has been Kirk Henderson, Josh Moe of Pod Maverick and Mavs Moneyball. We will talk to you guys soon, and go Mavs.